Do you, what do you say about all these things that have been said over the years that you harmed Michael as a
Oh,
child?
that's a bunch of bull s. That's a bunch of bull s.
Straighten me out.
And that's not true.
You never physically harmed him.
Never have. And I raised him just like you would raise your kids, you know. But harm Michael for what? I have no reason. That's my son. I loved him, and I still love him.
And we'll be back with more after this.
Larry, I'm going to cut through the chase on this. I could never get to him. I tried all I could, and I could never get to him because I was barred away from him by securities and all that type of thing. I could not get to him.
They cut you off?
That's right, Larry. They cut me off.
Do you always want a large family?
No, I just wanted a small family, but I was the type of guy that when my wife started having kids, most of the guys was, in those days, and some of the guys in those days, they had one baby, and then they would run off. I couldn't do that. If you have them, you work for them, bring them up the right way, and then that's it. I was taught to stay with the family and be a father to the family. I was a father. Absolutely, I think it was the fifth kid.
Michael always does right? Is he
No, not all the time. Michael, he likes to lead, he's the lead singer. The way we discipline Michael is sort of like cut down on his allowance a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't give him this much money to spend.
And Michael said in a recent interview that he was frightened of you. He says that he was so frightened of you sometimes that he would be sick. Is that true?
Well, I just knew about that when I heard him mention that on TV on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I didn't know anything about him being sick, but regurgitating. But if he did regurgitate it, he regurgitated all the way to the bank.
What do you mean?
I mean, by me being strict with him a little bit, and it made him a superstar, because, look, it just didn't happen on his own, He had to have a beginning. All of them had to have a beginning.
We're taking it pretty hard, and especially Catherine, but we'll get through. Well, I'm telling them all the time, this happens to everyone, and so they gotta be strong and try to live through all of what's going on. It feels great to know that he's supported all over the world, and I'm sorry to say again that this tragedy that happened to him had to happen like it did, and he be recognized, because this should have happened. He should have been recognized before all of this happened, which he was the biggest superstar in the world, and they're just not recognizing it now.
You may have been a little bit too tough on some of them?
Well, I'm glad I was tough, because look what I came out with. I came out with some kids that everybody loved all over the world. And they treated everybody right. Michael, he was a nice guy, but under the world don't know anything too much about Michael as far how he was brought up. But he was brought up, I made sure that he respected the older people, yes.
Tell me about the young Michael and your relationship with him.
Michael was the type of kid, he was a good kid and very easy to learn. He hit one thing once, and he could really do it just like the person that he listened to doing it. And by him being that way, he was able to be Michael Jackson, because he looked good on stage, and when he performed, everybody loved the way he did it because he was that good.
You physically disciplined your kids. Do you think parents today are too soft on their children? Do you think there's a lack of respect because of that?
Yeah, they are too soft. One of the reasons I say that is because kids nowadays are killing their parents in some cases, and the parents say, let's get into this.
You got a scolding for it, and you also got a licking, as they called it. But today you can't do that. So Michael looked back at those times, and they said he was abused.
You know, in those days, kids was real bad, and the parents should have made sure, what I did, made sure that my kids was good kids. Made sure that
Sacrifices.
Well, raising 9 children, it's always going to be rough when there's only one working. And we sacrificed a lot.
There was a lot of instruments to buy, and they really cost a lot of money, you know, drums and guitars and amplifiers to go with them. And I had all this stuff piled up on top of the Volkswagen microbus.
Died almost every day to that courthouse. There was a real sense of pride on your face, and it was like you were protecting your son at a moment where he really needed it.
Yeah, but by being there when he needed me, that was support I was giving him, and that was support that he needed to know that I was there for him. And that's what I did. I was there all those times, of course.
Do you think he needed you before he passed? Was there
Yes,
a time
he did. I tried so hard. But there was people around him. You know, we had, during the trial, there was a lawyer, and I'm going to call his name. And he'd be proud of me calling his name on TV. His name is David LeGrand. He lives in Las Vegas. Michael hired this lawyer to, you know, to be his lawyer. And this lawyer, believe me or not, this lawyer checked everybody out that worked for Michael. I mean, everybody that had worked for him. When he got up there on court, they called him up. The lawyer said to the jury, he said, the lawyer said to the jury, I checked everybody out that had worked for Michael, and every one of them was cheating him. That's what he said. Every one of them was cheating. So after the jury had recessed, I called David out in the hall, and I said, David, I said, why didn't you do something about this, what you just reported? He gave me the impression that if he had tried to do something, they would do something terrible to him.
Let me ask you a question. If you were in Michael's life, would he still be alive today?
Of course. Of course, I had told some people, some friends, that if I don't get to Michael, he ain't gonna be here long.
Relationship like with Michael towards the end, because there was a sense that he was surrounded by people that were kind of keeping the family away, and that the family couldn't get to him how they wanted to.
That's very true. You know, he was like, well, they treated him like Howard Hughes. You know, family couldn't get to him like they should have. And I think that was very wrong for that to happen. But I guess that they had a motive to keep family away, but I guess because they was saying to the fact that too many families hanging around may cause some type of a disturbance for what we're trying to do with this young man, yes.
This huge concert tour that he had lined up, 50 concerts, knowing him as you did, do you think he was physically capable of doing that number of shows? Did you know he was doing that number of shows?
Yes, I did know he was doing that number of shows, and it was a reason why. It was a motive for those shows, because Michael was going to take that money and build a children's hospital. That's what he wanted to do, to build for all the sick kids there. He needed to make sure they had the right type of help.
When you speak about Michael with children like that, I can't not ask you about the court cases which scandalized his later years. As his father, how did you feel when he was accused of abusing children?
Well, you know, there's a reason why that happened, and they was trying to take control over Michael's life. Michael's paid out a lot of money. You know, what it was something like $22 million, you know, to keep this thing hushed down.
Do you wish he'd never done that?
I wish he had never done that, but since he done it, the media, you know, didn't grab it as much as it did because it was hushed up. But Michael was afraid of the media because they would never get nothing right, you know.
Did Michael, at any stage, did his behavior ever worry you around children? And the reason I ask you is, a lot of people felt, here's a man in his 40s, mid-40s, having sleepovers with young boys. And most people would think that's inappropriate. Michael wasn't a normal guy. Everybody knows that. But did you ever worry that the perception of what he was doing wasn't good for him or his image?
Well, Pierce, Michael was a big old kid himself. He was still had the mind of a kid. But he loved kids so much, and things that they didn't have, he tried to help them to have it.
You never saw anything that concerned you?
That's nothing concerned him.
You never felt...
We knew Michael.
Right.
We knew our son. We knew how we raised him. And we knew that, yes.
There is a difference between a beating and a spanking.
A spanking, you know, you just spank them a little bit with your hand or something, let them know that's wrong what they're doing. A beating come from the slavery days, when they used to beat the slaves, because when the slaves tried to run for freedom or something, they grabbed them and beat them and tortured them, you know. And they beat them with just about anything they get their hands on, put scars on them and all that type of thing. And that's the difference between beating, and that's where it came from in the slavery days.
Away from these drugs, get him away from all the doctors.
I tried very hard, and many times, but I couldn't get to him. Just like I told you earlier, that they treated him just like Howard Hughes. You know, you couldn't.
I find that a fascinating analogy, Howard Hughes. I studied a lot of Howard Hughes' life, and by the end, he was completely protected. I mean, you couldn't get past the walls to get near him. And it seemed like Michael, in his last few months, that was his life too.
Yeah. But that's the way it was, and it was hard to get to. And maybe, you know, his mother could get to him better than me, because naturally, you know, Catherine is a very good woman, and I love her much. Still do. And right now, they're trying to get my wife to divorce me. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. But that'll never happen. You know, the people that surrounded them.
When you say they, Joe, who are you talking about?
People that surrounded them, around my wife. And people that's involved with her.
Are these family members? Or any of the children?
Some are. Not none of my kids, no. Because they're not like that. It's other people that's around, and
they're trying to get you divorced so that they can get their hands on Michael's money, or what is it?
Well, they got motives, you know. They get, if they get Michael's mother's away from me, and then me away from the mother, then they got a free hand. Right now, I'm in their way, you know. I'm the strong one. But the point is this. There will never be a divorce. And I was with her last night.
And do you still love each other?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.